This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka the Trading Agent. This is your live market chat Monday, April 3rd, 2023, the start of the second quarter. A lot to talk about. Hopefully you got a chance to check out the weekend recap. Hopefully you have just stayed afloat, stayed sane, tried to keep your head about you, and just, again, the evidence in the charts sometimes does not present itself as obvious, or there are traps, and trading is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It is not for the people who cannot pivot, adjust, and change strategies as needed. A lot going on today. Let's get into it. If you have any questions in the Discord room, please drop a question. If I get a confirmation that we got firm mic is hot, we good? I'll go on. Sip on a little coffee for a second. Again, I appreciate all of the support, the dialogue. Again, agreeing, disagreeing, this is hard. I try to explain this to people. Cool. At extremes, prices are hard. If anyone who's been around, and if you're in the chat, feel free to chime in. Who remembers the October lows? Felt like the world was going to end. Right? Who remembers the highs? Seems like the market can't go anywhere but up. That's what the market makers ideally try to present to the market, because again, it's all exit liquidity, whether it's long or short. And so that's what can be difficult. You don't know what price action is going to play out. Now, do you wish it's easy? Yeah. I mean, I always do. But again, that's why I tell you, you're going to be right a third of the time. If you do this really well, you're going to be early probably the other 60 to 50% of the time. And then the 10%, 15%, if you do this right, you're just going to be wrong. And wrong is wrong. Wrong is wrong. So, Cat, please don't mess around. So, on that note, let's just jump into some of the things that I'm watching. Stop it, Cat. Hold on. Get out of there. So, the SPY action, I saw the same thing on the Q on Friday. End of quarter, I'm like, look at this big mofo candle at the close. I mean, you just squeezed balls. And in my mind, that felt very distributory blow-off capitulation. Now, we made a slightly higher high this morning, right? Well, now you need to watch the 409, which is ironic. And, kind of 409 kills everything, right? Is that supposed to be what it's, meant for? I'd be watching that level. I mean, you can see very similarly on the QQQQ. You had that blow off, right? Well, now it can't get above it. So for anyone watching who's worried about tech looks the worst. It finally is starting to present itself. And again, love drawing this on the spot, but this is stuff I was just noticing, didn't even need to draw. I'm like, all right, here's your blow off candle. What are we doing? So, and this is the thing that I keep talking about, tech, again, if inflation entrenches in, and now you have OPEC doing what they're going to do. Now, people are saying, well, what does this mean? OPEC is literally admitting that they see weakness in the economy. They're not going to cut supplies dramatically unless they see what? Demand dropping. Demand dropping means what? The economy is going to be getting weaker. Now, some people say, well, yeah, it's meant to, piss off their allies against, everybody who's in OPEC. Yes, they can do both at once. It's not and or. They can do both. And I honestly think people don't realize, if you remember 2008, that's what OPEC did right before oil dumped too. They started doing huge cuts because they saw demand going what? Now, again, I can't confirm this because I don't live in this world, but I've been hearing there's huge stockpiles of diesel and fuel building up in Asia, Europe. We'll see. I mean, it makes sense if they would want to cut, right? Supply, because it's like AG, we talked about. I like what AG did. They said, hey, if prices are too low, demand isn't, is in the future, let's just cut our supply. Let's not just continue to pump at prices that we don't think are good, justifiable for our business. Now, again, prices probably will go lower over time in oil because that makes sense, right? If you looked at the PMIs today, construction spending, ISM manufacturing, they're bad. So bad. But again, that's what the market does. It whistles past the graveyard, or sometimes it makes things out to be worse than they are. Right? And that's what can be so hard. But here's the thing that I think people who haven't been doing this a long time or are headline perusers, you know, they're like, all right, the market's, what's the best word? It's unbreakable at this point, even though everything's bad. And it's like, okay, that's what they want you to believe. And just remember, at like the lows, they're going to convince everybody that the world is ending and that there's no reason to buy. And so think about the opposite of that. At the highs, the inconceivable to sell stocks here. Inconceivable. Nvidia, who gives a crap if it's trading at hundreds of PEs, future multiples? It's bigger than Berkshire Hathaway. It is unstoppable, right? Like, that's the narrative. That should, again, I don't know if Sam is listening. He posted in the main chat, he's like, oh, I don't know about Nvidia here. And I'm like, yes, technically don't know right now, right this second, about Nvidia, but I can guarantee with 99.9% clarity that shorting net Nvidia up here, now again relative, right? It's going to work out. Just win. Again, because Micron's confirming this. We talked about the good old, your favorite MU, PU, stinky U, whatever. We talked about this. Again, this pro gap down starts the move. Triple top, whatever. Blow off. Now, again, when we zoomed out, SMH, all the stuff we talked about, man, this is frustrating. I get it. But didn't we talk about this was a novice gap, potentially retest? Now, again, people go, retest, retest, retest. You talk about that crap so often. And it's like, yeah, because I've lived them. I've lived them. Multiple. And again, as someone who's traded gold for many, many years in miners, talk about retest, retest, retest. Like ironing out levels beyond the point of comprehension. Well, sometimes you violate them temporary right before you do the opposite. That's the thing too, right? That's what the markets can be really good at. I mean, speaking of like gold, like look at this. Remember at the lows? It's like, you can't trust that. I mean, it's like, here you go. Retest, retest, make slightly lower low. So, and now look at gold up here. And, you know, people are getting really excited about it, which, again, I personally, again, whatever shorts I have on, the dust or long dust are 0.00001% of my precious metal holdings. I'm always a bull, unfortunately, because that's what happens. It's like owning Bitcoin and not selling. It's, you know, you're a bull, whether you like it or not. So, I mean, I could rant on for a while, but check it. Just keep an eye on it. Like, I was looking at this again over the weekend. I was like, man, look at the Qs. Every time it blows off, it's always like these candles that just, you know, they boggle your mind because they don't make sense at the time, right? Sorry, this needs to be, give me this. Can you give me that? All right, there we go. Like these setups where you're like, all right, well, I guess it's going to the moon. Which, again, my mistake. I thought the Fed day was the moon retest, right? Now you went slightly higher. Interesting action. We'll see how it all plays out. I mean, personally, I think it's very obvious how it plays out. It's just a matter of when, not if. Right? When you go check out the QQQ monthly, you're back to, I mean, again, this trend line here, you could draw it with the space, right? Like, don't draw it to a perfect T, but let me see if this works. Yeah, something like, let me just like tighten it. There you go. Something like that. Now, in this world of frustration within the markets, though, right? Down, chop, down, chop. The longer we chop, I think the bigger the drop that comes ultimately. I mean, again, to think that the market has bottomed without a VIX touch, I mean, this is what's crazy. I mean, I say this almost like every day, but just, again, timing's hard, right? No one's sitting here. To think that out of all the issues that have ever happened into the market, going back to whatever, 1998, to think that we're in a world where the VIX in this bear market ends with a bottom in the 38s, I can't wrap my head around that. And if I'm wrong on that, I'm wrong on that. But that's evidence of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. At least 9 times. Is this the 1 out of 10 times where the market bottoms with the VIX in the 38s? I don't believe so, because if anything, it's the markets, what we're going to get into is comparable to, at worst, some of these spikes. How high, how strong? Again, credit contraction is just starting. People don't see it. Job layoffs are just starting to increase. There are issues expanding everywhere. But again, the market can be irrational. That's the thing. It's not going to advertise how bad things are unless they want you to sell. And they're not going to advertise how good things unless they want you to buy. Well, keep that in mind. You always have to be thinking about the market makers. People say like, oh, it's conspiracy or you're overthinking it. I'm like, no, I mean, that's literally what the market's meant to do. It's meant to fool the most amount of people the most amount of times. To think otherwise, I mean, that's just, okay. Well, again, in a bull market, it's different, right? You know how, if you don't know how a bull market works, especially with like stocks, this is what's crazy in the sense of, yeah, they pay off the fat cats to get people to get fat and rich. Let's go back, look at like pre-COVID. Oh God, I think I went too far. I think I went beyond. Let's just pull up the Qs. How about that? I broke the chart. My bad. Yeah, I was like, I figured I over compressed it. Along the way, right, you get the fast dips, right? Fast dips, then rally back. Fast dips, rally back. It's kind of crazy to think that like this market before 2018 was just, this is normal, right? Big quick, double top, retest, chop, build its way back, right? Build its way back. Well, then they pump more liquidity and then it goes absolutely fucking bonkers. Right, here's like the Fed raising interest rates, tantrum down. All right, starts back up. Well, it's so hard, right, is to think like we need a bear market to work off the froth, but then you like look and you go, oh, geez, this thing just went perpendicular up. All right, well, to think that it's done, okay. I mean, it's always possible. No one can argue that for certainty, right? I'm not going to tell you that. Just to me, it seems more very likely that you come back in and when you zoom out, right? Again, not many people chiming in, so I'll just kind of talk to myself. I mean, do we have to come back to 120 on the Qs? I don't know about that. But some of these other trend lines, the 100-month, maybe the 50-month, I mean, once that breaks, that makes sense. Like, we barely held a 0.382 on a fib retracement in a bear market. That doesn't seem very deep. Now, again, could the Feds go liquidity monster? Could they rubble, just go after it? Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. I think a lot of people have in their mind timing being like something that you can just nail every time. Levels, yep, stop out, got to do it, define your risk. Yeah. But you showed me this chart. And again, even right in this area, like 314 to 320, like it's an easy short. Oh, but it goes to 320. Can't be. Okay. I mean, that's usually how the people's minds work. And that's where, like down here, right? Like at the lows, oh, it broke this low here. Game over, right? And then it started to proceed right back up. All right. Well, now you break over it. Okay. Get everyone to think it's going higher. Sometimes it plays out like that. Sometimes it doesn't, right? That's what's so hard. You want to anticipate all probability potentials. And that's where people are like, you're early. And it's like, have you ever missed a trade by a penny because you're being cute? I mean, some people were talking about MU. I think Harry, same thing. Like, man, I mean, I've been there before, my friend, where I'm sitting here going, all right, I'm going to wait for 65. Because what you said, sorry, let me pull the daily. It makes sense. Like, if you put an order in at 65, which would be, up right around here. Whatever, you think maybe it blows off because the market's doing its thing. Doesn't get there. Or you're waiting for the exact, 64.50. I mean, that's the thing. That happens. It happens. And I'm talking about the type. So, UVX a buy. No, I don't buy the UVIX very often. I mean, would even mess with it. I mean, come on. I'm assuming you mean UVXY, right? There's so many of these products. What's up, Joe? Hopefully you're doing well, my friend. Yeah, it's like all of a sudden, come on. My computer's been acting up today too. We had internet issues. AM, why is it not loading? Am I just brain farting today? Come on. There it is. Is it a buy down here? Again, I don't really trade the technicals of it, but I would just, I mean, based on what the VIX is doing, and we've said it feels very gift-ish. But just be prepared. Like, you got to trade the UVXY. It sucks. I mean, yeah, it makes sense down here. I just think the easy trade always on this stuff is let this stuff spike. And if this is like the actual start of the final leg of a bear market, and if it's not, fine. I mean, you can always get away with shorting it on any major pop. That's the reality. So, any other thoughts, questions, concerns? Just kind of watching things. Tesla, I mean, this is what, so here you go. Here's another example of wanting to be perfect. I know a lot of people who are like, I'm going to wait till short Tesla next week. This was last week. Remember, last week, here's the close, 206. They come out with their numbers. Interpret them as you may. Now what? You know what I mean? Like, you want to get the highs, right? You want to get as close as you can, but it happens, right? Somebody today is talking about NVIDIA. I don't know when it's a short, and I'm like, okay. I mean, I would feel comfortable shorting anything up here if I had bullets to fire in my mind. In my mind, I'd fire them. I've got pretty much all in. How much higher can it go? I don't know. But as soon as it went up there, someone's like, here, I'll wait for, what is it? If you said I'm going to wait for 280 on NVIDIA, anyone see the high today? What the price was? Anyone see the price today? 279.91. It's like the price is right. Come on, Bob Barker. Come on down. You don't know. You just don't know with exactness. You know, I got my little trendy line here. It's like old back tester, trender. I mean, close enough for government work on the Intels. Again, I was talking about this. Check the monthly out. Maybe it's on the weekly. I have it drawn. Yeah, here you go. Oh, but I'll wait for the next level, 35. I'll wait for, okay. Would have, could have, should have. Again, in my mind, I think we're close. And this is the thing, too. I mean, Eric brought this up and said it in the Discord room. Very clear as day. Last March into April. Look at this. This dead cat bounce. And then so don't be surprised. Now this is the thing. If this ends up turning into a head and shoulders top, you know, complex, meaning left shoulder doesn't have to always be one touch. Head, right shoulder. I mean, I know a lot of people are arguing, well, this is the head and shoulders bottom. All right, a lot of shampoo either way. You either got dandruff or you don't, I guess, essentially. Just be probability based. I mean, if you have to get all in all the time in your trading, this is where trouble comes into play. We say this all the time because, again, if you go all in and now the probabilities in your mind are that you're going to be right a third of the time, 60% of the time you're going to be early, now you fired all your bullets. Where are your stops and what confirms whether you're right or not? Time. You hope everything turns into MU or Tesla or whatever stock you're shorting, going long, whatever. You want it to immediately move in your favor, direction big. Does it have to? I mean, I know a lot of people, you know, talking about First Solar, shorting it. I'm like, I get it. I absolutely get it. Then it gets a downgrade today. I mean, at one point today it was back right up at the highs and boom. This is what is so damn hard about trading, is that your expectations of when things start and the timing of such are incredibly difficult. Because this is what I talk about. Like, what indicators, please explain to me, what indicator knew that Morgan Stanley was going to downgrade solar today? What MACD, RSI, whatever shit you want to pretend that just follows price mattered. No, it was just the downgrade. It was just the nature of how it worked out. I wish I could tell folks, you know, anything other than if you were watching it on the 10-minute opening, you saw these bars. That's all you really could do. Trading. You don't know until you bet. That's Livermore, one of Livermore's best lines. You don't know until you bet. Again, you can try to put probabilities into your thinking, but you don't know. So always have that in the back of your mind. Like, don't believe your own hype. Know your stops, know your risk profiles, know that you can be wrong. It's the people that don't. And again, I'm guilty as charged of being involved in that situation of mental, what would you call it? Mental mistakes, whatever. I mean, mental fog, clownness. It happens. Let me just pull through some. Yeah, the only certainty is uncertainty. Look at Netflix here, riding the backside of the trend line. Okay, does it need to get into this zone? I mean, I guess you're kind of there. You are there. So, yeah, this is just trading. And a lot of people are looking for the furu, the guru, the FinTwit homie that just plays like this aggressive game of like, I'm always right, or this is what it's going to happen. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I was reading something about, I think it was DMAC. I don't know who that is on Twitter, talking about, oh, my Tesla calls, how awesome they were. Great going into last week. Kapow. Just kapow. Maybe buying more calls. I'm like, whoa. Buying more calls? This just feels like a dead cat bounce. Right? I mean, it's so funny. I mean, is this like the extended middle finger pattern kind of? I don't know. I guess it really isn't. But this is just not bullish. Again, unless you believe in a bull market is rebuilding. And I don't think we've bottomed out. So in my mind, again, if you study the past, the leaders get absolutely throttled. A new bull market is usually not led by the old leaders. Like, that's not how it works. Tesla, again, I don't know how to value it. I don't know what to tell you. Again, I haven't been drawn much on the weekly on this thing, just kind of dinkering around. It's your guess. It's good as mine. At a certain point, your guess is as good as mine what's going to happen to this thing. I personally would not buy it, though, and sit here and go, well, I'm going to sit on it for a couple years. We don't know. I mean, it's pretty hard to bet against Elon. He is pretty smart. I get that. But I've seen stocks do crazy things. And again, do we really think, as much as it loves chopping around, retesting, right? Chopping around, retesting. Do you think that bottoms in? This is it? There's going to be any test of a low 100 again? I highly doubt that. But that's just me studying the past. Because again, I mean, I don't think a lot of people, I mean, here, if there's no questions, I'm just gonna go back in the time machine. Good old Cisco was the boss. Now people say, oh, it's a different era, .com. No, tech is always the future. Look at this thing. Look how much chop it had, and then it would chop, and then it would chop, and then when it hit the bottom, it retested and played these games. Well, remember, the market and the Qs got absolutely throttled. I don't think that's going to discount again. Remember, all the capital that is in tech, all that money is coming to commodities. I'm telling y'all, at some point, it's going to happen. It is going to happen. The weighting of commodities to tech right now is insanity. It's like everybody's in tech. Always. That ends badly. It's like a housing bubble. It's a tech bubble. And this is what happens in tech bubbles. But remember, you had like these reverberations that got people to go, well, it's the bottom. Look how, hey, look, everything's great. Everything is awesome. Kapow. Right? That's what they do. Now, let's go back into the present and kind of look at it and think about from where it's at. Okay, it's just All right, it's not that bad. Everything is awesome. Everything is great. Now what? And again, do the math here. Like, this isn't like some... It went from 27 to 407, right? Do the math. 0.382 retracement only? If this is a bear market, that seems very light. Very light. Now, again, they throw the printers back on, liquidity, I get it. I think it prolongs money coming out of this stuff. That's why I don't recommend shorting commodities. Because at any point, they catch the liquidity that's coming out of this stuff. And again, stuff, I'm calling it crap. Because again, the valuations, I don't care. People go, well, Meta's cheap at 15, 20, 25 times, whatever earnings are at. Or, throw whatever tech stock at. Apple. Go look at what VALE, LetterX, some of your favorite commodity stocks valuations have been trading at. Literally low single digits. Like, pretend this is Shark Tank. That's the kind of valuations that markets give to companies once their growth peaks and things seem to just settle out. You're going to get a couple times earnings. Not 10, not 15, not 20, because the growth rates aren't 20, 30, 40%. They're single-digit cash cows. They're single-digit growers. They're very economically sensitive. Right? Like, that's how this works. And so once money comes out of whatever the hot sector is, it rotates into the other sectors that will have dynamics that grow for potentially years. And it seems very obvious. Inflation isn't going to entrench. I mean, think about it. They get it under control. They're going to try to cut rates as fast as possible. All right, will tech react the best? My guess is that everyone is all in tech. That's the problem here. There's nowhere else to go but down in tech, because think about like housing in 2007, 2008. Everybody and their mom buying houses. You don't only need is a pulse and a pen to get a mortgage. There was no one left to buy. And so there was only one direction to go, and that's what tech is, in my mind. There's only one direction. And again, you can argue, I don't give a crap if you try to say it's the future, it's the future. Tech is always the future. It's the valuation that they get. It's the momentum. Once momentum is lost, if you don't know what momentum loss feels like, go study whatever the Bitcoin stocks were that came out, the 3D printer stocks, solar stocks once they lost it, commodities. Once momentum is lost, it doesn't just come right back. It usually traps, and then it just goes zzz, pow. You don't believe me? Then do your own work. I mean, I don't think any of y'all were obviously following. Well, maybe there's a few friends who pay attention to stuff, but they remember the big oil short. They remember this crap. They remember, right? They remember the USO going nuts, and it was just like, goodbye. Mike is hot. How hot is it? They don't remember this crap. I mean, again, we're running out of oil. OPEC's cutting. We're running out of oil. OPEC's cutting. Well, again, keep in mind, like, this is what was going on behind the scenes. There was a commodity bubble. Oh, you don't remember the commodity bubble? That's one of my best trading times. Look at this. When tech bottomed in 2003, this is why I keep telling, like, commodities. Oh, I believe in them long term, but I think there's birthing pains. I've said this multiple times. I'm not going to sit here and go, I don't like commodities and that you shouldn't buy them. I just believe that there's going to be better opportunities. Now, maybe gold rips off on its own. That's fine. Again, I'm not going to complain about that. But look at what LetterX did, right? It's just and then it went, here comes all that tech money. All that tech money. Again, remember the market caps on these companies. Pow, ripping up. And then everything. And then it's gone nowhere forever. Now it's basing again and doing the same thing. That's why I keep telling them, like, man, if this thing retests 18, buy it. Absolutely buy it. Aggressively, potentially. Depending on where the market is, obviously. But remember, if you get a market wipeout and VIX spike 50 plus, you're going to see discounts on stocks that you have followed go. And you're going to go, wow, that price is moving down big fast. And that's where you just hold your nose, close your eyes, know that you're close. Have a stop, define your risk, be patient, and you go, oh, it's time to buy. It's time to buy. That's what you have to say to yourself, because you're going to be like, I know we're close, because you've done the homework. And you know that commodities, unlike tech companies, are going to have deep discounted values already in an inflationary future. To think, and then again, I always laugh, people like, oh, deflation's coming. I'm like, do you guys see how much debt the world is racking up? They can't do deflation. They need to devalue debt through sustained inflation. Tech hates inflation, guys and gals. It's deflationary by nature. Think about that TV, that sweet OLED TV that was once $5,000 is now $1,500. By nature, it's deflationary. Well, what happens to tech when the input costs continue to rise and they can't get their economy scales like they usually do? Like, people aren't going to be able to go out there and buy $100,000 electric cars. $100,000 whatever. $50,000. I mean, again, they'll have to, at some point, try to figure out how to get their costs down. And this is what the thing is, I don't think people understand about semiconductors. Once the semiconductor industry gets glutted, full of inventory, they are cutthroat to reduce the prices and to sell as much as they can. Because, again, it becomes almost like a commodity. At some stage in the semiconductor cycle, everybody's making great products, great chips, great computer parts, whatever you want to describe. Graphics cards, motherboards, hard drives, all that stuff. Everyone's making top of the line, best stuff compared to what it was, years ago, right? At a certain point in the cycles, if they get stuck with inventory, they have to unload it. Remember, these companies live off of what? Revenues. They have debts. They don't pay dividends. They're pretty cash strapped. So, anyway, just ranting. Any other thoughts, questions, concerns? If not, I can just wrap this up. I'm here for just letting y'all kind of hang out, vent, say what you need to see. You can't sit on them. Become the absolute. Thank you. I didn't even mention that. Thank you, Bamf. Exactly. You cannot sit on that inventory either, because it will become obsolete. The next cycle of upgrades is constant in tech. It's constant. Can't sit on that inventory. All right. Any other thoughts, concerns, questions? When does the VIX spike? When does the VIX spike? Again, do you have a crystal ball? Do you know the news? I mean, I look at the daily and I say, if you bought the VIX or you bought VIX products down here or long support, which we talked about, anything under 19 seems like a gift. Got to be patient. Everyone's talking about seasonality. April should be bullish, which it typically is. But the problem is that if you are up into earnings, dangerous, especially with the warnings that are coming. Micron, what was it? Restoration Hardware. Who else? I mean, some of these companies are like, ooh, things aren't good. Things aren't good. Things are not good. They're getting, again, look at the service PMI today. Or sorry, the ISM manufacturing, the construction spending. Stuff is bad. Europe, bad. Europe is not in good shape. And again, most the news outlets aren't talking about what's going on in France, but man, that's not looking so good. Again, and again, geopolitical. Think about the news that's being ignored and what's focused on. That's where sometimes in the cycle you start to realize kind of where you're at. Because what's being talked about and what's not being talked about is very interesting. Right? Because the Feds, all of a sudden, this banking stuff just disappeared. But credit contraction, legit. People are still pulling money out of banks. Now, again, I don't know how that plays out over time. Ultimately, and it's bad. I mean, talking about like near term, right? Like you hit the vacuum, they throw a couple $100 billion to try to fill the void. Does that work? This is the problem with inflation, right? Once the cat's out of the bag, you can't put it back in easily. And people are like, well, all this cash, it's going to, well, where's it going? It's going to money market, and they want it to go to treasuries. I've talked about this endlessly. They want money to go to treasuries. They do not want to be the ones buying it. So there is an incentive for money to come out of the market to go to treasuries if I'm the Feds. If the rest of the world is dumping our treasuries, we need people to buy it. Well, where's all that liquidity? A ton of liquidity in the market. Ton of liquidity in the market. That's, to me, the obvious answer. And again, if you remember the past, you studied it like you should. Hopefully, if you're trading, you're not just watching the daily chart all day, or the intraday charts going, oh, this is what's going to happen all the time. You remember very clearly what? 2008. Interest rates were interest rates were hanging out around here, 5, 6, 7%. Boom. Rates went lower. Now they could fund all the stimulus. At lower rates. But we're in a worse off financial position. In my mind, you need rates to get some significantly lower to be able to what? To get the government to do whatever stimulus they need to get going. Yeah, Mel, I'm glad to see him start too. I mean, this is the thing about that. And again, I'll give credit to Eric if he's listening, because he knows, like we talked about, like he was like pounding the table, like look at the end of March, look what happened. They ran this shit up. Excuse my language. And then boom, feels very similar. Run it up, end of the quarter, chasing emotions. Gets people to what? Think that the market. It's inconceivable to think the market could drop here. It's like, okay. Okie dokie. You keep telling yourself that. But again, this is what's so hard about price action at highs is some names stretch even further. Nixon Kissinger sucked. Right? Like, what if today is literally the NVIDIA outside reversal, makes a new high, and again, if it closes below 271, that's an outside reversal candle. It engulfs yesterday, makes a new high. Keep an eye on it. But here's the thing about how dumb people, again, I can't blame them for being dumb. The market's telling you what? Tech can't go lower. Tech can't go lower. Well, the shit was just at a 109, and now it's at 280, 279.91. Now people are buying it. Now people are getting excited. Now people are starting to believe that it can't go lower. Now that they're total, again, valuations. Again, I'm not really much of a fundamental person, but I know when nosebleed valuations show up. Right? I mean, what is this thing? I mean, again, for this company to be more valuable than Berkshire Hathaway, get out of here. Get out of here. AI is the future. AI, no duh. No crap. But AI is one of those things where it's going to be free. I mean, it's going to be an add-on to basically every service you have. It's almost like you go to dinner, they give you a fork. You do work, you're going to have some AI software. How powerful does everyone need it? I mean, again, obviously there's going to be levels of complexity that people have, but then there's going to be the basic crap that's free that anyone can go click, 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 ding, 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 ding. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. Microsoft low of the day. Yeah, it's cool. Again, Tesla. I mean, look at the reaction to Tesla today. And what's crazy is like, oh, they're doing real sales. Dude, they're giving away Teslas. I know 2 friends of mine over the weekend that traded in their gas guzzlers for cheap discounted Teslas. And I'm like, okay. I mean, that's interesting. I personally don't want a car that can be controlled by computers ultimately, especially driving long distances. I don't want to have to stop. But the convenience of just driving around town, never having to fill up gas, I get it. I get that. People who have to commute 30 minutes a day for work, man, I can charge that. Bing, ding, ding, ding. All right, any other thoughts, questions, concerns? Gosh, I mean, I'm just watching VALE earlier. I'm like, man, all right, these material names don't look like they're enjoying the higher oil. AA, man, financials just teetering right at resistance. I posted this in the Discord room. Like, we hit the 20-day. Look at this. Doink. Top of the range. Doink. Now, we added some FAS. I remember back here and been patient with it. If you added some today, well done. Again, I don't have any bullets I'm willing to fire at this point. I'm basically all in. People are like, you're crazy for being short all. I'm like, I couldn't see any reason why not to be ultimately short here aggressively. Oh, but it's wrong. Again, I know myself. I know the top tendencies of being early. Can't haul lumber in a Tesla. They're bringing out that their Tesla truck, though. That thing looks pretty damn futuristic. I don't know. I don't know. Just kind of scrolling through things. This is a lumber company, UFPI, speaking of. Again, I recommend not shorting any commodities unless you like, maybe today is the day, I don't know. Again, buying dust calls, kapow. IYT, transports, interesting, get back up. You can see this level here. It matters. Keeping on at 100-day for shizzle. For shizzle my nizzle. Seems to matter. What else? Housing. Here you go. Look at some of these housing indexes popping up to the 50-day. Okay. It likes to do these little up and flops. Yeah, need a lot of different things. It's funny. Airbnb, I haven't looked at this in a while. Okay, yeah. Novice gap trap. How about our favorite short for semis for me is Taiwan semi in time. I think this thing gets bam. For shizzle, my nizzle. Yeah, that's some Snoop Dogg vernacular. Nvidia obviously is a favorite short. Yeah. Unreal. Intel, we talked about getting up to the trend line close enough for government work. Okay, we'll see. AMD, I mean, people on the Discord room were like, hey, it's down all day. I'm like, yeah, agreed. Here's another waiting for 103, waiting to exhale, didn't get there. Just chopping around, doesn't really look that beautiful. Wow. Caterpillar, look at this. Check this out, y'all. Look at this long leg. Whoa. Again, not knowing that I don't have many bullets to fire, I'm not like looking too deeply at the market. I'm trying to let time pass. Interesting. Hit and flop. What else? XBI has been just dragging butt. Hits the 50-day. I mean, you'd think the XBI would be up here with tech. Something's off. I mean, Meta, again, everybody, this zero chance in hell that this Meta bill passes, by the way. Zero chance. I mean, people will go nuts if they start regulating the internet and you can't have VPNs and you get $200,000 fines, 20 years in prison, whatever it is. Yeah, but that's the thing. Sometimes the most annoying shorts lead to the biggest drops eventually when they start. That's what I've always noticed. The more like annoyed I get at a trade as it's rising, and again, if it fighting what ultimately will be gravity, it just means it gets smoked later, in my opinion. Think about all the distribution. Think about all the idiots buying Meta up here. And someone, like, again, I get a lot of trolling on Meta. Let me just connect it here. Oh, you're wrong on this. I'm like, okay, well, you just stay long this thing forever. You tell, we'll connect here in time. I'm like, does anyone paying attention to, like, again, if you're paying attention to anything that's going on with Instagram is dead, dying. They stopped paying creators for their content. YouTube, TikTok, every other output of like such pays. Meta said we're not going to pay anymore. Do you think people want to post on these platforms now? You're not going to pay us for creating? Okay, well, piss off. I mean, Instagram, and this is the thing that is hilarious about Instagram, is that, you know, Instagram was always a place to go to get inspiration for photos and follow up with people. Now, again, if you want to follow up with people, you can do that with Facebook. But the irony that now AI can literally create, you just type in an idea and AI can create it. Now you don't need to go use the hashtag searches. Right? Now you don't need it. The hashtag searches don't matter anymore for inspiration. Oh, I don't need to go to Instagram to look up creative thought. Now, again, if you want to follow hot babes and hot dudes and cool cars and, you know, what people are up to and pay attention to that crap, yeah, that's fine. Those people always probably be looking around the internet for that stuff all day. You know, if you want to kill time, essentially. But if you don't incentivize creators to put their content on these platforms, as somebody who posts content on Twitter, Meta, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Don't do Pinterest, but people do there. What else is there? I mean, God, there's so many of them. You telling me that these people now don't have to post on Instagram? Oh, they won't do it. That's how I feel about it. I'm like, oh, I mean, it becomes a job to have to literally maintain a social media profile. Cut one off, people are like, yep, awesome. Better, cut the fat. Oh, I'm not going to get paid from them? Screw it. Oh, I might lose some of my audience on Instagram, but if everybody knows you're on social media, how easy is it to go, click, 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 oh, you're here. Click, 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 you're here. Click, 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 you're here. Oh, you're everywhere. Yeah, that's it. So we'll see how it works out again. Ulta keeps climbing. Ulta. It's interesting how some of these... holy crap. Again, I don't really follow Ulta. This is interesting. Give me a second, because I think I'd be curious to know what the fib extensions are. Let's do some drawing. Let's look at some fib extensions. I'd be curious to know 2 times range is got to be coming upon us. Nope. Still got room. Wow. This is what's hard about certain stocks, right? Like, this is why you have to define your risk. Like, could NVIDIA do something like this and did something? Yeah. Making new highs is different, though. This is what's crazy. Hey, will you stop destroying stuff? Stop it. Get out of here. Cats. They always want to knock everything off. Tables. I don't know why it's climbing, but things making new highs, those are your references to be careful shorting, right? Do you guys see the difference here? Shorting something at 52-week highs is different than shorting something at a reference above. Because think about overhead resistance versus 52-week highs. No resistance. There literally is no resistance. Now, you can try to draw it out and create it, but we'll see. I mean, it's interesting, actually. So Ulta had the same thing on the 10-minute on Friday. That, like, tight squeeze here. But again, man, how many shares? Only 100,000 shares. I mean, what's the daily volume on this thing? Okay, yeah, millions of shares. So I guess that's not that big. There's your market leader, Ulta, I guess, right? And keep in mind, like, this is what... I mean, this was another one people were talking about. Again, I have this on a different workspace. I just don't want to click through it. The Lulus. Ooh. Yeah, they had earnings. Wow. See, if you were going to short anything, that makes sense to me. I mean, you can connect the box. Connect this little area. Yeah. This is interesting. This is like, again, what I would consider. Yeah, never trade uncharted waters. I would tell people, if you're trading uncharted waters, just be careful. That's all. Because you don't know how high something can go. You just don't. And, you know, Livermore would say the same thing. Like, you know, just because something's high doesn't mean it can't go higher. So. Oh, nice, Deanna. That's, dude. I love that setup. That is just a big gap novice trap. Now, again, have your references here. I mean, if it gets over 369, you probably have to go. Could come back later, but that's just like a squeeze balls short. Yeah, I mean, the monthly looks like the top is in. Yeah, you need references, but you have to remember, at least with references, they can violate them temporarily. But new highs, oof, those are hard. Yeah, this area makes sense. Is this the middle finger? Or is this the middle finger formation on Lulu? You know, is this your pinky, your ring, middle finger, your pointer, and here's your busted thumb? Yeah, low volume on the indexes today. I mean, I'm not surprised. Again, do we wait for turnaround Tuesday? But if you go look at, again, these are great conversations. Appreciate y'all chiming in. Look at the SPY. SPY tried to make new highs, right? But what has the Q's done all day today? Lagadocious. Inside candle day. You know, who was watching the IWM today? Anyone else? Look at that wick. Look at this range. 20-day in the 0.382 from the past. Let me zoom out from where this one comes from. Yeah, it's an old 0.382, I guess. Let's continue the pattern. Let's say this is it. This is it. This is it. We'll see. I would watch that 20-day. Look at that 0.618. Tasty. Keep an eye. Nat gas is so low to know if tech money comes to commodities. Yes and no. This is the hard thing about natural gas. I mean, I'd probably want to play the exploration names. Oh, yeah, that's right. This name came out of the highs. UNG is tough to trade, but like, what's your favorite gas name? BRR? Because again, we can look at the futures. Give me 2 seconds. Show me please update. Yeah. The thing about natural gas. Oh, it only shows this contract goes back. It can play games. It can chop. This is the hard part about it. And I agree, at some point, yeah, money will come into natural gas. But if the VIX isn't spiking and the market, the Feds haven't pivoted, this is what's so hard, is based on evidence of the past. The best time to buy commodities is when the market drops after the Fed pivot. Because usually after the Fed pivot, the market, like certain sectors, will just continue to go lower. But usually the commodities will have bottomed by then. That's where the money coming out of tech will help propel commodities. I personally think the Feds want money to go into treasuries. They want money to go into dollars. I don't think they want them to go into commodities yet. Now, can they control that? Clearly, they'll try, right? If you guys aren't familiar with like how the CME and the futures games work, oh god, they can manipulate this shit-tox out of commodities. I mean, you're kind of seeing it with silver today, in my opinion. Let me check out silver. I mean, it really got up there. And boink. Gold keeps trying to make new highs. We'll see what happens. Yeah, this is what's so hard, is like you get trapped in natural gas at some point. Like if it doesn't go anywhere. If oil, again, buying commodities, and this is what I was trying to show people earlier, like from 2001 to 2003, commodities were just very sloppy and choppy, right? They didn't make new lows, but they also just kind of traded in ranges. And so at some point, the low end of range, now not gas is there, obviously. So it makes sense. I mean, you could take that trade with stops, but I would just anticipate, don't get hung up on the idea that it has to rip to the moon yet. Because that might happen. I don't know what happens in the May meeting or the June meeting. Speaking of, let's go look at the Fed Fund futures. Let's do the refresh. Subway, eat fresh, refresh. Sponsored by. Just kidding. Subway is gross. All right. Yeah, they're anticipating a rate hike still for May. I wonder what June's at. All right. June is a pause. July is a cut. September is cut-ish. Should be a cutting. Again, this will all change. Pause still. Imagine next year's where it gets nutty. Oh, gosh. All right, yeah. Start next year or end of this year, they're expecting pain. My concern is X at 16.18 and the Fed pivots to drop to 6 to 10, which is done in the past. Well, that's the thing with Netstar, right? Like you have your alerts. Just because it hits that price, do you have to buy it? I mean, do we trade in a vacuum? Do we have to, can we look around and see what's going on? Because if the market, I agree with you, it could go to 6 or 8. But if those names are coming off of the 20s, could it get to 6 or 10? I mean, let's look at LetterX, because that's a great point. Like, could it go to 6 or 8? I mean, anything is possible. Let's not discount that fact. Could it get back down to 610? I mean, that's always possible. Like, that's the worst case scenario. Yeah. But I would use, in my mind, the most recent multi-year lows, which you can see 16 to 18. So that's all. I mean, that's why you see the alarms are set. Maybe I should just move this one. I don't know why I would duplicate it. I should just move this one down to 10. We'll see what's going on. Because if we get down there to 17 and the VIX is at 70 and the market's at 2,800, could it get to 6? Maybe. Does it get to 6? We don't know. But that's the hard thing, right? Is you have to see the money coming out of commodity. So, and this is what you saw, and this is what you will see, right? Is like ultimately money rotates, right? Money isn't destroyed. It just rotates. That money, at some point, you will see commodities flooring at some point, and tech probably getting what? Beaten, sloppy, just beating the hell out of it. But commodities will find a base, right? Will it take weeks or months? Probably. Will you be early if you try to catch it? Yeah, but you could be dead right, and it just chops around. And that's where, again, if you wanted to buy stock versus options, the options would be on the retest, right? Because you wouldn't want to buy options when the VIX is in the 70s or 80s. Go to market and buy shares to exercise. Yeah, I heard an argument made that brokerages had to go to the market and buy shares to cover ODT options that would be exercised last Friday. Any credence to that? Yeah, I mean, that rumor, smoke, there's fire kind of thing. Like, it makes sense to me, because that's where, if Deanna, because I'm glad you asked that. You talked about that. I mean, maybe this is where you can point to, literally, is the close, last week. Like, somebody was buying this crap. Somebody got squeezed. And it's the last 10 minutes, right? Yeah, that was the last 10 minutes. Remember, I'm 13:50 means I'm military time. Remember, I'm on the mountain time. That makes sense to me. Credence to it, it definitely seems possible. That would make sense, that the brokerages had to, take on the stock. But here's the flip side of this, Dan, because that's a great point. Do you think that they want the people that exercise their options to win? Do you think the brokerages want to make their money back at some point? Right? Oh yeah, we'll sell it to you at a high price, and then we'll let you, then they have to cover it lower, potentially later, right? Like, if this is what they pull the rug out from under it. It's an interesting thought. Yeah, they're JP go with like the 4,800, 3,885, and then 3,200 collar, something like that. Is that correct, MK? I'm just pulling that off my head from what I read. I think it's something like that. Something like that. I mean, 3,200 would take you what? Down to right here. I mean, there's references. But just remember, within the collar itself, time-wise, it can go up, below, and above the extremes. But MK, the thing that's funny, when you talk about JP Morgan, I posted this on my Twitter. Let me see if I can pull this up. Give me like 30 seconds to look this up. But JP Morgan posted something today over the weekend that I thought was interesting for their clients. Let me see if I can find it. Posted it on Twitter. What did they say? They said something that just like, how we talked about at the highs and the lows, these guys are just, they're the worst for their clients. Maybe I should become a Chase client and just do the opposite of what they say. Or if someone wants to do that. Where was it? Yeah, the credit crunch. Look, this is crazy. Look at the credit crunch. Oh, it's getting better, right? Bank credit. Give me 2 seconds to find it. Where was it? Yep. Market is very optimistic. What was it? Oh, okay. The global expansion is looking even more resilient than expected, raising the question about the likelihood of all of our call for a U.S. recession and global slowdown later this year. Carl Quintanilla, if you know who he is, he's one of the goofballs on CNBC, retweeted this. The global expansion is looking even more resilient at the highs. That's when they posted it. Yeah, here, check out the new orders. ISM manufacturing. Hey-o. Here's the European PMIs. Hello. Better be careful. Goodbye, waiters and bartenders. Yeah, they're the next. They're the first to go from here. So, again, things that I'm watching. Things that I'm just kind of noticing, paying attention to. If you have thoughts, feel free to chime in here. But let me see. Algo is waking up. When are the algos asleep? I'm just kidding. I don't know. Once the article from Jacob this weekend was a buy treasuries, 5% no risk. Huh. Selling to Ethel and Fred with Sam Ives upgrade today in tech. Huh? Dan Ives. Yep. Yeah, he was pushing tech today, right? Dan Ives was. Then who did he upgrade? Was it Apple? No, it's Tesla, right? Didn't he upgrade Tesla to like a target of 250 or something? I can't remember. Sorry, I remember things that I focus on. Things that I just breeze past, I don't always. Oh, look at that. Socks. So SMH, low of the day. Algo's waking up. More like tech getting sold. Any other thoughts, questions? Man, we've gone an hour here. I appreciate everybody and the input. And again, this channel is, we're never going to be mainstream. And if I am, hopefully you can tell my tone is the same. And if I'm not, someone be like, you're fake. I hope I would never change. I've always been one of those people that tries to stay true to who I am, because I've always thought that the people who don't hate themselves. The thing that I always want to be is honest and probability based. Am I always right? No. I mean, I can tell you guys for a fact nobody is. Everybody knows that, right? Someone's promising certainty, run away. But we try to be evidence based. And here's the thing with the evidence, right? It's getting worse. Yeah, exactly, Frank. Last April was a terrible month, down 9%. I agree. That's what, again, Eric and I were kind of talking about in Discord room. Like, dude, look at last March and April. Here you go. Here was last April. It was a big red. Big red. Yeah, agreed. Apple, was it Apple upgraded 205? Whatever. Stupid. Dumb. Dumb. That's not a wick. That's just how the candle plays out. I can move this. Hold on. There you go. Dumb. Dumb. Now it's back at the channel. Channel highs. Good place to upgrade it. Dan Ives. Yeah, sector rotation. And then this is the thing I was trying to explain to you. Like, I have my risk defined. I'm in pain. I'm literally on margin, all in, short tech. And people are like, you're crazy. I'm like, it just makes sense to me. Again, at the lows, when I'm screaming buy and everything looks like it's the end of the world, I'm going to feel very isolated. This is how I know I'm near the lows or the highs. It's like, it's not... You just feel like you're the lone wolf. And again, maybe the Discord or whatever. You just feel like everybody's going crazy, saying the world's going to end, and the world hasn't ended. That bet has always been a loser, right? And then it rallies. And again, what if the world does end this time? What if the currency changes? Well, again, I think at some point the inflation comes back to stocks. Commodities will always have value. You need to put electricity on the table. Gas on your table, electricity in your car. No, you guys know what I mean. Trying to play with words, not working out so funny. All right, any other thoughts, questions? Yeah, dude, I mean, look at all the upgrades at the highs recently, right? Like, think about all the... I guess I could ramble on about this forever. How many times have you seen... Do you guys remember the banks being downgraded at the lows? by the rating agencies in 2008, 2009. Like, that was an absolute joke. Well, the rating agencies are now the brokerages, which are now the same kind of stupid crap. Upgrades at the highs because they don't want to be left, again, because they didn't do it at the lows. Because, again, they were buying. They didn't want to tell their clients to buy. It's like, no. We buy at the lows. We tell you to buy at the highs. So you are exit liquidity. That's always what happens in a bear market. Now, again, bull markets, it's a little trickier. But watch NVIDIA. If we take out Friday's lows, that is an outside reversal bar. New high followed by lower lows. Reversal. So, all right. Any other thoughts, questions? Can we get Arnold's voice? Well, give me a stock to talk about. I'll do Arnold's voice. I can do that. Yeah, give me a topic. Give me your favorite stock I should be watching, Mike. I'll do Arnold. Let me sip on some coffee for a second. We have to get out of here. We cannot stay in NVIDIA all day or forever. If you hold NVIDIA stock, you are going to get murdered. Hasta la vista, baby. What are some others' favorite taglines? No, I'm glad this helps, man. I, too, have been drinking a lot of chamomile tea for my nerves. I honestly try not to watch as much when I get a little... Get to the chopper! Get down! Get down again! Yeah, I always try to, because you can't let the frustration just build on you, because you're close. You have your stops, you let them do their damn job. It's interesting. Again, we can watch the market, and it's funny when this happens, but if you sit there and know you're going to get frustrated, do not want to get terminated, baby. Oh, you just... And this is the thing about me and some of the guys in the Discord room, gals, whatever, who are hanging out. When your frustration level hits a 12 and you've been doing this a long time, you're at extremes. The average person gets frustrated when they're wrong. That's fine. That happens. But the frustration of the stretch, think about the rubber band man theory, pulling something and it's just a matter of what minute, day, week is it going to snap back? What day does it snap back? Everybody leave a comment below. Hit the smash like subscribe button. No, you know what I mean? You don't know. You don't know. But look at the SMH here, right? This is not bullish. Now, again, could it have a wick today? Anything is possible. But watch. It looks like it's going right to fills the gap. No, thank you guys for just understanding this, because I get a lot of people who get just they go nuts. They sit here and they live in this world where they're the A-type. I'm an A-type too, so I understand. I can relate. I have to get into the trade, and it has to go in my favor immediately, all the time. And they're just not sitting here going, well, I can be wrong. I can be wrong. But then at a certain point, when you zoom out, and this is why I've been trying to zoom out constantly on the... If y'all notice, all last week, all I kept doing was trying to get to the weeklies and monthlies and go, guys, gals, friends, we're in areas that are going to be extremely hard to continue lifting off. Because think about it, when you go from straight line up, and you meet resistance, there's going to be sellers. It's not like it's been slow and steady. Think of NVIDIA. Think of any of your favorite names. It's just velocity begets velocity. How many people were, probably not many, but many of y'all weren't around because I wasn't really going totally public. I first started going public when Tesla was at the highs. People thought we were crazy telling them to get out. People thought we were nuts. They were like, you're crazy. You're crazy. And it's yeah, now you remember. Talk down here. How many? Again, I wish I would have held Tesla longer. How many people bought down here some Tesla? Y'all remember that? Talk about yeah, I think you can buy some down here. Oh, but what did we say? 105 to 110, somewhere in that range. What did the low get down to? 101.35. You missed it by a couple percent. Doubles. You're in the park. We're in the park right now, Deanne. We are in the park of timing to be short the market, in my opinion. That's all I can really say. Again, when I look at the monthly on the SPY, I look at this and I go, damn, could we get to the 20-month? Could we? Does it have to? Because it tried to. It short-armed it there. But we just went from 381 straight up. You did it here, but you had a bigger red candle previously, right? Now we're in the chop zone. It's hard. It's hard. But here's the thing, too. Like, remember who was it? You? Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but someone's like, did you guys see now that they're calling a bull market in tech 25% off the lows? I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Here you are. Tight up against the 20-month. Tight. Tight, 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 tight. Where's the weekly? Did I delete? No, never mind. Here it is, the weekly. Coming into the zone. This is an area matters. Look at the bottoms of all this. Again, should I expand it? I mean, technically, sure. Whatever. Could it fill the gap? Maybe 323. That'd be hard. Yeah. And this is why I've said, and Jimmy, I've said this many times, like, I don't want to short commodities because I see all headline risk leading to inflation if it's geopolitical. But at some point, there will be throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Some of the commodities names will get liquidated because everything will get liquidated. Redemptions from hedge funds, institutions selling, pensions selling. People need to raise cash. They will get caught in that, but they won't drop as much. Burr, I do remember about Tesla, Dan. You were buying at 109. I was thinking shorting at 118. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing here. So, Burr, like, reverse that mindset and think about it if you were buying the dip on AMD today. You're like, oh, it's at 90, whatever, 95. I'm going to buy it. It's going to 103. Okay. Okie dokie. Karaoke. Speaking of AM Dizzle, this is the mountain formation. You're on the backside of the mountain, Captain. Do you want to go higher? I don't think so. Yeah, again, this is what's so hard about this crap is like the day-to-day stuff. If you sit around and you let your emotions get dictated by the day-to-day action, and you don't let your stops hit, and you don't move, you know what I mean? Like, you don't give yourself time. Again, I hate to like sound like a broken record, but time is so important. So important. Time. Because timing is hard. People say you can't time the market. Well, you can't, but you can find levels that matter. Right? Like when people say that crap, I'm always like, you can't time the market. I'm like, yeah, but if you don't expect to be perfect, yes, you can. That's the thing. It's like, yeah, you can. Just don't expect to be perfect about it. Don't call me up and go, Dan, what time? Interview. Hey, this is the Wall Street Journal, Dan. We'd like to know when the market's going to top. It's going to be next week, next Monday at 10:30 a.m. I got to go. Bye. No, like nobody, again, I'm not the market makers. You don't know that. I don't know that. So anyway, these conversations, and again, do you see how simple this needs to be mentally? Again, because if you want to day trade and you want to talk about it, it's fine. I can try to help you with that, but I've tried to step back from day trading for so much other than trading around positions. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't want to trade around my positions. I think the big risk is now what? Or the big reward is which direction? South. If I take a loss, I take a loss. If it ends up being bigger than I want it to be, that's fine. Again, and it's not ultimately, but the reality is like I'm hoping, believing my skills lead to higher highs and higher lows. My stock, if I'm a stock and I'm wrong, I believe over time I will go higher. I will do better. Because that's all you can really try to do. Again, if you're thinking that you're always going to be a straight parabolic line up, that's just a hot run that can't last, sustain. Remember, think about running a marathon. You will get tired. You will get burned out. All right, any last thoughts, questions, concerns? Always fun here. Always. Again, I enjoy the lives better because you can really talk about what's going on. You can really talk about. Somebody had some ODT meta calls, right? Look at that. Anyone remember that? I was like watching. I'm like, oh God. I remember that candle pissed me off on meta because I'm like, all right, it's popping. It's a trap. I thought we were gonna get back under 210, and then it was like, It's like, son of a bitch, biscuits. Who remembers what we talked about in Discord room, potentially being a professional gap in the Qs? Just keep that in the back of your mind. Professional gap potentially here. Not on the, well, I guess on a Monday. Not there either. Ooh, excuse me. Qs love playing these games. They have long up candles. No, I mean, that's the thing. I'm here. I do the lives for the answer the questions. The best that I can. And I wish, layer in layer. I wish the trolls were around, because I love when they start getting real aggressive. Keep in mind, they have been extremely aggressive saying that shorts are not working right now and won't work. That's the key. It's not that they're not working now. They will not work. So keep that in mind. That's where the trolls are at on a scale of 1 to 10. Usually they're always around. They linger. They never really go to 0, except at the extremes. But they are now back at a 12. Extremely, like, just commenting, leaving like, you're wrong, you're going to be wrong, that you're absolutely going to be wrong. It's a bull market. It's like, these are the folks, hook, line, and sinker. If you ever picture this, like, image, they have a hook in their mouth, like I got now. They just don't realize they've been hooked. It's like a fish that's been hooked. They don't realize it. But as soon as they run, that's when they get, that's when the hook really engages. And meaning running their mouth and getting like confident swimming around. They don't realize they're hooked. At some point, they will be harvested. So, man, look at Taiwan Semi. You give it to me. Give it to me. Any other questions? Again, I know I keep asking that. I do enjoy this. Watch the 50-day. Oh, I mean, thank you so much. My goal is to make sure that anybody who follows becomes a better trader, a better person. Because, again, this is all an evolving process. You don't wake up day one of trading great unless you got lucky. And then if you got lucky, you think you're good, now you've got problems, because now you start thinking that you are smarter than the market. And eventually the market is going to humble you, humiliate you, and destroy you when you don't believe you can be wrong. And then if you don't believe you can be wrong in trading, well, it's guaranteed you fail. 100%. Show me a trader that guarantees that they can't lose, and give me the ability to do the opposite of them. I want to be their market maker. I want to take their bets, because I know how it will end. I know how it will end for that trader. All right, I'm going to end it. You guys have a great afternoon. I will be doing, obviously, a market review for later on. Again, I wish this was Tuesday. But I'll take this Monday action so far, because right now tech is definitely leading. Can it wick in the afternoon? I mean, it's always possible. I mean, do they want to pull the rug on it? Do they? I mean, there's a few names that aren't down a ton. Like, watch Apple, Meta, Netflix has been holding up pretty good. I guess that's kind of about it. Roblox, all the other ones. I mean, they're all like flat to red. Yeah. And watch J Solstice Special, the Microsoft, Mr. Softy Ice Cream. No, thank you guys. This is interesting, because if this gaps down and takes out the 283s, adios amigos. All right, chat with y'all later. Also, too, check out the website. I've been trying to update it, add stuff. If you want to get on like a mailing list of things that I'm sending out, things that are interesting. Again, none of it's required. People are saying like, get your website in order so that it's easier for people to learn on. And I'm like, no, I agree, because not everyone's gonna be in the Discord room, and not everybody's gonna be doing certain things. So it makes sense. People need their different outlets. All right. Talk to you later. Peace.